And so, after our first real excursion through the mean streets of Silent Hill, we managed to unlock the back door to this house, which I believe should give us a viable means of reaching the elementary school. Rather unexpectedly, though, darkness seems to have fallen on the town. I guess it is good that we managed to pick up that flashlight from the diner, though I feel like darkness is only going to be the start of Harry's problems as we make our way towards the school. Still in the backyard here, we do manage to find 2 available health drinks to add to our ever-expanding storehouse of items. Other than that, there's not really anything else of interest in the backyard here. The only thing of real interest is the gate leading towards the back alley. Yeah, the flashlight is definitely a boon to us. Gives us a good sight of all the dangers waiting for us ahead. And believe it or not, you won't be able to even access the map without having the flashlight on. So we wouldn't be able to easily tell. We just need to head straight south to reach the elementary school. Though the light is a bit of a double-edged sword, as it can give away our location to enemies in the darkness. As you might be able to imagine, the Groaners are very sensitive to light, especially being without available eyes. They just kind of magically pick up on our light source and our general movement sounds. Also, it is a good idea to take this back alley down towards the school, because we can find some available handgun bullets to add to our ever-increasing cache of bullets. Yeah, definitely as night has fallen, the enemies have increased in their numbers even more than we saw previously, so yeah, still not a good idea to take a gingerly stroll through the streets. Instead, we just want to book it down to the school as quickly as we possibly can. And before you know it, we have actually managed to make it all the way down to Midwich Elementary. Guessing that Cheryl might be waiting for us in here. Just kind of hope that she might have had a little easier time than we did making our way inside. Still, after the cacophony and static that was going on outside, the silence is just as equally unsettling inside the school here. I would think that some people might have come to the school for shelter considering what's been going on, but I guess not. Also, with any new area, it's always good to keep an eye out for an available map. That first map we got was only for the residential area, so this brand new area, yeah, it's good that we did find this map. Because the school is more or less our first, I guess, multi-floor dungeon that we're going to have to deal with. Even goes all the way up to the roof, and inversely, there is even a little bit of a basement. Question is, where could Cheryl be waiting for us inside the school? have a number of doors to check. Though I feel like the very first place that's worth checking out is the reception desk. It seems like somebody might have had a little bit of an accident. For that, though, we do find what appears to be a list of teachers who, coincidentally, also happen to have the same last names as the 3 starting members of the band Sonic Youth. Yeah, there are a few random Easter eggs strewn throughout the school. Some of them are, I guess, fairly bizarre to say the least. But yeah, amongst all the carnage, we do find a few blood-written notes. We see a time, something about an alchemy laboratory, and something golden in an old man's palm. It seems almost like a bizarre poem, I guess. Likewise, keeping the same motif, our second note mentions time again. Another place, and another item, this time silver. And we have one final note. So 5 o'clock, darkness that brings choking heat, flames. Well, if you consider that all these places could be references to something within the school, I guess that does make sense. I mean, what would be a dark place where fire and flames exist inside a school? Down in the boiler room, I guess. Likewise, a laboratory and a place of song. Well, up on the second floor, there is a chemistry lab and a music room. So there seem like good places to maybe check out. We just had to figure out a way to get up there. But before we start heading towards those areas, we do want to check out the room behind the reception area. Do find particularly interesting piece of art that Harry doesn't really feel is very appropriate for an elementary school. I kind of agree. It's a very strange motif to have. I guess you could say the same with the box of bullets, though Harry doesn't really feel the want to question those. But outside of that Blazinski painting, I guess we can just keep on pressing forward. Though, the map does not really give the impression about how difficult it is going to be to traverse the school. As opposed to the big, wide-open streets of Silent Hill, Midwich Elementary is very much locked off to us. There's only very limited places we can go right now. Thankfully, though, we can access the infirmary here. And it's very important to be able to do so because it houses the one singular save point in the school, as well as a few available healing items, which definitely makes sense considering it is the nurse's office. All in all, though, at the start, we are pretty much corralled outside out to the courtyard here. We are greeted by a familiar enemy. Where things go a little bit differently than they did before. Yeah, these tiny creatures with their knives are called gray children. They aren't really children, though, so don't worry about me caving their skulls in with my pipe. Or their very distinct ways of attacking. No, they are definitely monsters. Particularly deceiving monsters, especially with their attacks. Normally they should only take about 3 to 4 swings with a pipe, but it didn't go as well as I had expected. Still, we have been collecting quite a few items, especially in the ways of bullets, so I think it's time we put a little bit of distance between us and the enemy and protect ourselves with that hot iron that Sybil gave to us. But yeah, out in the courtyard, the main fixture, the most obvious fixture, is this very, very tall clock tower here. By investigating it, we see that it is stopped at 10 o'clock. And that does bring to mind one of the 3 poems that we saw before. In addition to that, there are 2 fixtures on the side. And yet again, they do bring to mind those 3 pieces of writing that we saw in the reception area. Because there is a mention of gold and silver. So I guess if we want to do anything with this clock tower, we are going to need to find those key pieces and explore those rooms. And I guess there is always a possibility that we might stumble across Cheryl as we open up the clock tower there. Yeah, beyond that, the courtyard really doesn't have anything else of interest. There's no items lurking around in the corners. It's just an easy way for us to continue exploring to the other areas. So it allows us to get used to gun combat. Yeah, there's a couple of small caveats to take into account with the gun combat inside Silent Hill. They are very explicit about the fact that Harry Mason is not well trained with the gun, so he's not going to be able to snipe people from long distances. And there's a way to quickly switch from target to target, but I think as we saw with that last encounter there, I ended up switching to a target that I did not mean to attack at all. Problem is that school is very heavy in combat, so we are going to need to be at the ready with our gun. Though that isn't to say that everything we're going to run across is that aggressive. Or it can even really hurt us. Yeah, this mysterious little specter is known as a larval spawn. And we'll know why it is just a larval spawn later on in the game. Now, though, it's mostly just trying out doors to see which ones are actually open and available to us. For some reason or another, the upkeep on the school has been, let's say, somewhat limited, so there are quite a few doors that just are, well, completely jammed and will never be accessible to us. Seems like a mostly fruitless hallway. though we are able to access the bathrooms at the end of the hall. Yeah, the grab attack these guys have, not really that damaging, but they can start to pile up on you a lot quicker than you might think. And to make matters worse, there isn't even anything in here to even get our interest. The girls' bathroom is very much in the same vein, though thankfully we don't have to shoot a grade child to find that out. Still, you do want to make sure and head all the way down the end of the hall here, because you can unlock the door, giving us something of a shortcut back to the main reception area. Most importantly, though, it does allow us our first real access to the second floor. And this is where those two main rooms are that we are going to need to poke around in. Yeah, much the same way that the halls were pretty crowded on the first floor. Second floor as well is fairly crowded, so we are going to want to sneak into any rooms we can. And while for the most part the school has been somewhat quiet outside of a few rooms, this little chemistry supply closet here kind of hints to us that there might be something interesting to us. And in fact, we do find a little bottle of a chemical on the shelf here. It's a bit vague, so if we take a closer look, we'll see that, yeah, that doesn't seem safe at all. We shouldn't be just carrying around hydrochloric acid. I mean, that stuff, it really easily dissolve our flesh if given the chance. Still, it's nice that they gave us that little audio cue that there was something of interest in there for us. And considering that was a chemistry supply closet, right next door is the chemistry lab itself. Now it's got a few odds and ends that seem right at home inside of a lab, but what really stands out to me is this strange statue of a hand. Seems to have something of a death grip on this gold item. And I think that poem said something about a sage water to give us a gold item. Yeah, through a little ingenuity, we managed to get our first medallion for the clock tower. Pretty much whenever we make any forward progression in the story, we will be greeted by a few new additional enemies here and there. Also, I could just head straight back down to the clock tower, but might as well do a little additional exploration. Though I get the feeling I just keep on heading further and further into danger, considering all the static on the radio. Instead of great children in a library, we happen across the Larval Spawns Book Club, and, well, I think we've spooked them enough. And the book reserve only has a singular gray child. We won't really worry about that, though it does bring up a interesting usage, I think, that they have of the larval spawn, that they kind of give you this false paranoia that there is an enemy waiting for you, and that the radio static is not really always the best way to gauge whether or not an enemy is nearby. Just gives you the slight hint that something unsettling is going on. Much like the light, though, the radio is still a bit of a double-edged sword in that it can give away your location to some enemies. So if you are just trying to avoid some enemy interaction, you can probably turn off your flashlight and your radio and you won't have to deal with it. But that's really not an issue to us. I think we're pretty well stocked in bullets. Though we should definitely never get overconfident. Something else that the Grey Children have that I think is pretty unexpected is that they can be pretty quick. They don't make a lot of sounds, they can easily creep up on you, and that grab can knock you down so that their nearby friend can easily start to stab you, stacking on that damage even more. And they do really, really enjoy attacking you in multiple numbers. But outside of the usual silence that we are greeted by, seems there is an odd noise coming from somewhere in here. And while it seems like a bad idea, let's check it out. And that's not good. That's like the first normal living thing we've run across so far outside of Sybil. And there wasn't even anything waiting for us inside the locker that Cat was trapped inside of. It's a pretty jerk move to have. I mean, they were just trying to set up a literal cat scare, and in the process, they managed to kill a poor little cat. Still, we finally reached our other destination I did want to check out, which was the music room. It just seems that the main fixture of the music room, this grand piano, is oddly inaccessible to us. And that's because we actually need to do something before we can interact with it. And what we need to do is use that first medallion we got. So we need to head on back down to the clock tower. Thankfully, we have a few ways of getting down there, especially now that we've unlocked so many doors. And I was kind of pondering going through that one hallway to the left that we hadn't explored yet. But I think it actually might be quicker just to take these steps leading down. I'm wanting to say there might have been a health drink in one of those classrooms and a strange little Easter egg in, I think, the boys' bathroom on the second floor, but it was just a mysterious sound that never really gets an explanation as far as I know. So we'll go ahead and place our gold medallion into the golden sun orifice. And as you might imagine, that doesn't unlock the clock tower, but it does change the time on the hands. And if you might recall, 12 o'clock was the time mentioned on the piece of writing that had to do with sound. So that will hopefully open up something in the music room. As we have been clearing out the hallways pretty consistently, should be a pretty easy means of getting back there. And wouldn't you know it, the grand piano is now open to us. It seems that there is a bit of blood splatter on some of the keys. In fact, if we investigate the keys even further, we find that some of the keys of the piano work just fine, and some of them seem to have broken chords. There is one final piece before we can solve this puzzle, and it's this blood-stained sheet of music here. So we have a tale of birds without a voice. We have a white pelican and a white dove that wants to get away from the pelican. We have a raven that flies above the dove, and a swan that glides away to the next available area, or spot. And finally, we have a crow that flies away from all of them. After all that, we should get a silver reward. So, that does have to do with the ebony and ivory keys of the piano. Now, we do have to play them in a particular order. The one caveat is that song started out with, well, a bird without a voice. So we are going to want to play the keys that are broken. Starting with the first, then the last white key, the black key above that white key, the next white key over, and finally, it's easy to get mixed up on that puzzle, thinking you need to play the keys that work. But as long as you make sure to pay attention to the name of the actual song lyrics, I guess it shouldn't be that difficult to figure out. And much like with the gold medallion, we want to go ahead and head on down to the clock tower to place our silver medallion inside the waiting orifice. Though we do want to be careful about rushing. So I think you might have noticed a couple times as Harry has been rushing about, he can be a little bit slow to stop, and in some cases that can cause him to take a little bit of extra damage or just run straight into enemies. So the silver medallion is now in place. As there was 3 pieces of writing, clock tower door is definitely still locked. And the hands are now at 5 o'clock. Which means that our final place that we need to head is the fiery place of darkness, which my strongest assumption is going to be the boiler room. The one key thing to keep in mind is that only one out of the two staircases does lead down to the basement. The good thing is we did manage to already unlock all available doors, so there's no real difficulty getting down there. Sadly, though, the storage room in the basement's not really available to us, though that's not really where we are trying to head. Instead, we want to go ahead and press this very noticeable red button here. Certainly a unique sound for that boiler. Aside of that and a few valves that we can't really do anything with, there's nothing of interest down here, so I think it is time we finally head into the clock tower and, well, I doubt Cheryl's going to be in there. I guess we can maybe head up inside the clock tower to, I guess, get a better vantage point of the school. Maybe we can see her through some of the nearby windows. I mean, outside the game telling us that we need to go in here, I can't really think of any other reason to go up out into a clock tower outside of heading up. So it seems like we are going to be heading down. To some mysterious depths leading into a brand new area.
Where am I? Have I been here before? I don't remember this being here before.
Just where exactly did we end up? Well, tune in next time to find out.